Okay, so look, I make fun of a lot of athletes here, NFL players, NFL teams, the commissioner, coaches. I make fun of things that I think are funny or interesting, and I shit on pretty much everyone that's not the Broncos. You know, unless it's a player on a different team that I really like watching play. I am aware that I am biased towards the Broncos. If this Will Parks situation that I'm going to talk about happened on another team, I think I would be very quick to dismiss that person or player and say, you know, screw them, they shouldn't be in the NFL. Unless I actually read the article, then I would say, okay, this situation's a little different. But my point is that I'm a fan of the Denver Broncos. And I feel like that team, even though they don't know who I am, except for maybe Brandon McManus and CJ Anderson, I feel like that's part of my family. It's an extension of a part of my life. I watch them every Sunday during the season. I follow them. I root for them. So I'm going to be favorable to them, to their players. I am going to be more forgiving towards the Denver Broncos players than I would for anybody else in the NFL because I'm not invested in them. With that said, looking at this Will Parks situation, because it's been classified as a domestic violence situation, I want to be as fair to what happened as possible, and I don't want to give Will Parks special treatment because he is a Bronco, because I do not think there is any way in good conscience I could ever take the side of somebody who has committed domestic violence, who has abused a woman or a child. Like, that's not something I can defend. This situation is different than that, and I just wanted to clarify that I don't think that just because Parks is a Bronco. So now let's do a real cool, serious episode of That's Good Sports where I try not to be a douche for 8 minutes. Welcome to That's Good Sports. I am Brandon Pernin. Today I want to talk about timing and why I suck at it. My last video was titled, Broncos Won't Punish Parks, which was an accurate title appropriate for the video for an entire hour until Mike Klis reported last night that the Broncos safety Will Parks had been arrested in March for harassment and non-physical domestic violence. These charges are misdemeanors. I still don't believe the Broncos will punish him for this. The NFL might, but I guess that means my title is still technically accurate, which is the most important thing in this situation. I think if convicted of domestic abuse or child abuse, that whoever that is, that player, that person shouldn't be in the NFL. I thought that's what I was going to have to say about Will Parks, but his situation, like I stated at the beginning, is different. If you read Mike Klis's article about the incident, it's clear that Parks is guilty of harassing an ex-girlfriend who he thought stole some stuff from his home. His lawyer claims the arrest was completely unnecessary and denies any wrongdoing by Parks, but I think based on what I read, Parks is guilty of harassing his ex-girlfriend and threatening her if he didn't get his stuff back. That's what I believe based on the information I have available to me. What none of us know is whether or not she took his stuff. She claims she didn't. He claims she did. Now, I do believe that at the very least, some of the threats were real because Parks' brother, Tyree, said on speakerphone with an officer present in the room that Will, and I quote from Klis's article, he was just bluffing. He was trying to scare you. That's coming from his brother, and to me, that sounds like he indeed was threatening and or harassing her. Based on all of that, I think it is fair to question the validity of Parks' threats, and you can conclude that they were empty. However, to the person being threatened, they certainly felt, or I'm assuming felt very real, and I cannot sympathize with someone who threatens others with violence as a means to get something they want. I said in the last video, I thought the Snapchat. Take a picture every time you poop and post it on Snapchat. I said in the last video I thought the Snapchat stuff was blown way out of proportion. In this episode, I emphasized timing. So, when you combine that this arrest happened in March but was announced this week, on top of Parks' social media gaffe, it is poor timing and not a good look for Parks. I think that since he did not physically assault his ex-girlfriend, that he will get much more leeway here, and that's probably fair. However, I will say these charges shouldn't be taken lightly because often situations that start with verbal abuse lead to physical harm. This is serious, and it's fortunate that nobody was hurt. At this point, I think it's completely fair to question Will Parks' decision-making ability. I want to give him a pass. I've met him, and he seems like a pretty nice guy who succeeded even though the odds were stacked against him. I have no doubt that the way he was taught to solve problems is a complete 180 from what I learned growing up. What I do know is that he has to make a decision right now to make better choices in both his professional and personal life. I've never harassed or threatened someone, no matter how enraged I was, due to their actions. That shit doesn't enter my mind, but again, I attribute that to the way that I was taught to handle adversity. Look, this situation is a perfect example of some of the things completely unrelated to athletic skill that can derail a very prosperous career for a pro athlete. That's why the draft is a crapshoot, and the people who choose to try to be experts in it, I feel they've picked an impossible field to be an expert in. There are dozens upon dozens of extenuating factors that can alter the trajectory of an athlete's career. Maturity, circle of friends, home life, coaches, scheme, injury, positional, competition, luck, and so on and so on. So when I'm asked if I think player X will be good in the NFL, this is one of the many reasons I say, I don't fucking know. And the only real answer is maybe. If everything works out for them, they will be a good NFL football player. Will Parks is a 6th round draft pick. Everything does have to work out for him if he wants a long-lasting career in the NFL. He can't afford to put himself in situations like this. Now, we are going to learn a lot about Parks' character moving forward. We've seen many players stumble early in their careers with bad personal decisions, including our beloved Von Miller. A lot's thrown at young players right away. But right now, Parks is going to have to decide which path to take moving forward. Von made changes and is a leader and Super Bowl MVP, but he also was the 2nd pick in the draft, is more athletically gifted than Parks, and got really fucking lucky that John Elway signed DeMarcus Ware. It will be up to Parks to make better decisions, and there are a lot of high-character men on that defensive unit he can look up to, and hopefully he follows some of their examples, because in terms of football ability, I'm really excited about what Will Parks can be as a player in the NFL. Now, I think that's as honest as I can be about the situation. I don't want to be preachy. There's nothing more fucking annoying than people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, who pretend to have all the answers. I don't. And I know I don't. I do not have the luxury of knowing which details about this domestic violence incident are true and which are false. It's stupid to judge a situation before you have all of the facts. Unless, again, it's about any of the other players or other teams in the NFL. For them, I will judge harshly, comically, and irrationally to fit the narrative of this channel, That's Good Sports. Because we're Broncos fans first here. And all of you who watch this show that aren't Broncos fans, you are also very good people that I do not judge. That's Good Sports is on Patreon. You can support That's Good Sports with the monthly donation there. Patreon.com/that'sgoodsports. Any help is appreciated. This is the direction I want to move so that you, the people, keep me alive until I am dead. Which, if you remember, will be December 12th, 2077. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Subscribe here. Give me a follow on Twitter, @BrandonPerna, Instagram, @BrandonPerna. If you want to talk Broncos, hit me up on the Twitters. And don't forget my Patreon account. You're the future of me. How about that slogan? You're the future of me.